All right, this is the Big Douglas Show, now presented by Sideline Sports Network. Glad to be partnered up with those guys. It is another Fantasy Football Wednesday. We bring in the best and brightest from around, learn a little something, and help you with your fantasy drafts. As always, co-hosted by Nate Coleman. Nate, how are you today?
Hey, what's going on, Doug? Thanks for having me here. Excited to dive in today with Kevin and Scott.
Absolutely. Scott Simpson, one of my favorite. Kevin Coleman, first time on the show. So glad to have two adjudicators on the show today. So obviously we'll be learning something. Scott, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. You said the best and brightest, and you definitely were talking about Kevin because dude on Twitter is just the man. And then not me. So it was kind of like the substitute. You got the professor, then the substitute. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to be here with Kevin because he is an educator, and caring about kids in the future is a real deep passion that I have, and I know he shares it as well. And he's super smart. I mean, one of the smartest guys out there. So I'm excited to chop it up.
I am too. Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself. We're always curious for the first timers to the show, how long you've been at it, and kind of how you got started in the fantasy football game.
Oh man, a couple of years ago, when the pandemic hit, and as a teacher, I didn't have anything to do. So I was like, man, what am I going to do for my free time here? So and I coached at the time too, and we couldn't get in the gym, and so for the first time in my life, I had free time, and I kind of just was like, all right, what am I going to do here? And I did a lot of stuff for my leagues, like I would write recaps and stuff like that, like we all do because we're all degenerates for fantasy, and so I was like, hey, I could probably do this. So I started reaching out and, got into the space. I've only really been around the space for about 2 years. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I've been lucky enough to get opportunities along the way. But really my passion is, football, Cowboys, I'm sorry, I know this is a Commander show, but, just football in general, and that's where it comes from. And somehow it's turned into kind of a part-time job. So that's been fun.
Can I tell a quick Cowboys story and an origin story for me? I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm not a fan of the Commanders or Washington football team or whatever. I was a fan of the then Skins back in the day. I think I stopped being a fan in 2013, 2014. But as a little kid, Kev, in kindergarten, they said, okay, who's your favorite football team, right? And I remember I said, Dallas. I like Dallas, right? And then the teacher got everybody to gang up on me in the circle, and they were like, Redskins, they were chanting at the time, right? They're chanting. And I was so overwhelmed. I just caved. I mean, immediately I just was like, okay. So deep down inside, I do have to say, when I was a little kid, that was what I loved. And the heart wants what the heart wants. So today, some of that Cowboy love may come out when we talk some fantasy football. So I just want you guys to know I'm not a hater, but I was indoctrinated here in the DC area. It's hard not to kind of get your mind melded, but I'm free now, totally free.
Which allows you to just float around the NFL landscape, picking on whoever you feel like.
For fun, just for love.
Just for fun. All right, Nate, get us into the show sheet here. Let's get started.
All right. I'm going to keep it really simple for the first one, guys. And Scott and Kevin, you can answer this one. Which rookies are you targeting in redraft? Because we know every year it seems like they're the skeleton key to unlocking your teams a lot of times, whether it's your Jamar Chase or Jalen Waddle. Who are some rookies that you're targeting this year?
Scott, let's go with you.
You're my elder. You're the elder. You go.
Oh, man, I'm so old. You know what? I wrote an article for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Just came out a couple of days ago. So I had to get in and do the legwork, at least on the first 15 or 16 wide receivers. And I did this last year, and it helped me to kind of understand where the points are going to be at. And so traditionally, most of those points are going to come from the first round, second round wide receivers. Like almost 80% of the points are going to come in those, those people are going to be hitting, right? So I think first round wide receivers, I called it like a 12, 13 point, hit rate, right? You're in that flex, range. It's about 42%, 44% for round 2 picks. So really you got to be in those first 2 rounds to be really kind of taken seriously. Now there's outliers every now and then, and this year I'll talk about somebody later, but it's hard to get away from those first couple picks. And I think if the cards fall right, there's a story where kind of each one of them, makes their way. I'm going to go right now with Chris Olave though. And I'll say the reason why I like him is just the offense with Jameis Winston is going to be completely different than it was last year. It was so anemic. It was hampered by injury. Trevor Siemian is your leader at some points. It's not really what it needed to be. But with Jameson, he was 5th in ADOT, right? He's getting the ball downfield. Olave's got the speed that you need, right? He's a good route runner. And then also when you have Michael Thomas coming back, and hopefully now he's healthy, he's shooting up ADPs, that's taking a little pressure off of him as well. And for those downfield plays, he's going to be electric. Like he's going to score 1 or 2 touchdowns in a game this year. You know it's going to happen where he just goes 80 yards over the top of the defense. So if you're looking for splash and who's got the biggest chance, I like Chris Olave a lot.
Okay, I like that. What about you, Kevin?
I'm going to be a homer. I'm taking Jalen Tolbert right now just because James Washington got hurt, and he's going to be out. And it's about, I like Tolbert. I do the Debbie stuff, and he was some guy that I highlighted last year coming into the college season. And I just think everything that you want to look for in a late round guy or a rookie guy is volume and targets. And with Cooper being gone, and Washington, now that battle's over. And if they don't bring anybody in, and we know Jerry's an idiot, he's not going to bring anybody in. He just talked about, he literally just said, oh, we're okay with the company we have. And if you look at that roster, that depth chart, Tolbert's the second most talented receiver on that team. I mean, Schultz will be there and he'll eat into it. But based on, I think he's wide receiver 66 right now. I know that'll go up though with Washington injury, but you're still going to get him in that 50 to 60 range. He's probably, when you're looking at a late round guy you can throw a dart at, that's the type that I'm looking for in terms of hey, there's a rookie wide receiver. I could fill my roster with veterans and guys I'm going to go after. I know are going to get that consistent target share like Scott was talking about, and in terms of points per game. And then I'm going to take a shot on Tolbert, who could be the wide receiver too. And Gallup's not coming back till November. So you're realistically getting Tolbert in the Dallas offense as wide receiver too. And I'll take that.
I mean, in underdog right now, Tolbert's going around 115, 110. That's the same range as a guy like, Joshua Palmer. Who would you rather have, Joshua Palmer or Jalen Tolbert? So, yeah, I feel like he has way more upside. So, okay, speaking of upside, I didn't even mean to segue that way, but I did. Which rookie receiver has the highest upside? And this could be any rookie receiver going all the way down the list. I know I have one in mind, but what do you guys think? What's a rookie receiver with the highest upside?
I can concede to Kev on this one since I went first. I can let somebody who is maybe a little more energetic go on this one.
I'm sticking with my guns on this. My wide receiver one, that's Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson, and I think he could come in. He's getting drafted as Elijah Moore right now. He's better than Corey Davis. I saw some people talking about Corey Davis. Can we stop talking about Corey Davis? That would be great. We need to get out of there. I think he could easily be the number one option on the team. I know Moore looks good, but based on ADP, you're looking at round 8, 9, 10 in terms of where Wilson is at. He fits everything that Zach Wilson likes to do. He fits that mold. He fits that downfield threat. He can take pressure off defenses. And with Elijah being in the slot and kind of moving him around, that opens Garrett Wilson up. And what Garrett Wilson did good at Ohio State was win in one-on-one situations. He's very good at 50-50 balls. He was very good at creating separation, and he was productive. So when you're looking at his career targets, everything that he was able to do at Ohio State, he just oozes star potential. And for me, that's what I look for. And Garrett can be that wide receiver one. I think the Jets thing is pushing people away from him, but I don't tend to every year, I look at the player and the talent. That's what I bet on. The Jets are going to be better this year. And I think Wilson, I know I'm higher on Wilson than some, Zach Wilson, and I think that he can at least improve enough. And the defense are going to be down a lot. So you're looking at good positive game script for Wilson too. So I like his upside, and I like Garrett.
I'm not sure who the quarterback will be come week 1, but I got to always root for my dogs. George Pickens, I think, is getting drafted really low and has a chance to really get a huge target share there in Pittsburgh. So for me, George Pickens, particularly where he's being drafted, huge upside there.
I love that. Especially we have no camp sightings of Deontay Johnson right now, So that's not good. You need your number one wide receiver. And we know, unfortunately, Chase Claypool, not a number one wide receiver. It's just not in the cards right now for him. So Pickens on the outside, we'll see.
Scott, what about you?
Yeah, so I really liked Kevin's, and I'm not going to, piggyback, but I'll go a little different direction. There is an opportunity. All the other wide receivers, I don't like their landing spots necessarily. There is an opportunity with London Drake just for target share in that offense. Last year you had somebody like Russell Gage who he was viable, right? He was getting 11, 12 points a game. He averaged 11.7 points a game. He had 66 receptions, 770 yards, right? And then he had like a couple touchdowns. So if Russell Gage's volume just gets transferred over to London Drake, different role, right? But still, that's not a lot of volume either. You're talking about, somebody who could finish around 180 points without any kind of spike in that. So I like the floor there in that offense. I don't like the quarterback. I don't know what's going to happen with Mariota or Ritter. I don't know how it's all going to work out, but I just like his role in that offense as the alpha. He's the Julio Jones. He's going to be getting the most volume. And sorry, Bo. I love Bo McBrayer. Kyle Pitts, yes, he's got all the stuff. But I do want to see them both on the field at the same time because they're going to help each other, I think, just spread the defense out. And they're both big. They're both big guys. So that bodes well for them going up against, slot corners at times. They can move them into the slot and do things like that. Matchups, if they can figure that out, they can be successful. So more of a floor, not a ceiling. I like Kev's, though. Kev's the ceiling play if you're looking to kind of smash your league.
Scott, I'm curious what the numbers say. I know you've looked at it. I'm always nervous drafting players that don't have a good quarterback situation or when a new receiver is added to the receiver room. Do the numbers change based on the quarterback, or do you just still draft skill players based on what they do? Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the quarterback does matter, I think, if you're deciding between two players. But, for example, look at Jalen Wilder last year. He had Kobe Brissett for a little bit. He had Tua coming back from an injury. He still posted, outstanding numbers just based on volume. So I think Kev touched on it earlier. Jalen Tolbert's a great example of somebody who's going to be in a role that's going to demand attention every single game. He's going to be getting targets. He's getting that Michael Gallup outside. You need that. You need those 20-yard passes downfield, to open up CeeDee Lamb, all these different things. So I love Jalen Tolbert too. And so Dak mixed with Jalen Tolbert, yes, that like bumps him a little bit because of the offense and what they do for wide receivers. Now, I'm not going to totally degrade somebody and say I'm not going to draft them like, say, David Bell, because normally Cleveland has not done well. David Bell is just not somebody I'm going to target higher up in my drafts. Jalen Tolbert will be somebody I have on every team, by the way. Scott Fish, Warrior Bowl, every team so far that I've drafted. Dynasty this year, I've drafted like 5 or 6. Jalen Tolbert. So I'm with you, Kev, 100%. And I can say that I think Dallas has got a really nice, big-handed wide receiver on their hands. 10-inch club, guys. It's a big deal. 10 inches is big. I don't care what anybody says. That is huge. So I'm sticking to that.
I still think Christian Watson has a massive ceiling, but he has a tiny floor. He's not a guy I'm really targeting, but you could argue, there's very little target competition there. But, to me, the obvious answer is like Drake London or Treylon Burks just because of the target competition. But, all right, moving right along here. So, Kevin, let me ask you, who are two players that you are absolutely selling in Dynasty but buying in best ball or redraft? And, Scott, you can piggyback off of this one.
Yeah, two guys that I looked at when I looked at this question, Dalvin Cook comes to mind. I think Dalvin's going to have a very big year this year, and then you got to get rid of him if you have him in Dynasty. And I think that best ball redraft, especially best ball, anytime I've won in best ball, and I'm no best ball expert, all these dudes doing like 500 drafts. I'm a teacher. I can't afford that. But like when the ones that I do, when I money and I cash out, it's when I have 2 stud running backs. So I always get 2 stud running backs off the start, and Dalvin Cook looks like he's set up for that year. I know they've talked about being more open in the passing game, but I just think that just opens Cook up more. I think he's going to have less 8-man boxes. He's going to have more opportunities to kind of score in the red zone, those type of things. But in Dynasty, I went through some of the trade finder stuff for Cook just to kind of talk about what you could get back for him right now. There's a lot of trades with Cook and Breece Hall involved. So basically not straight up, but you can add pieces to Cook to go get Breece Hall. That would be like something that I would target personally. Like, hey, if you can go get a young running back for Cook, if you're not really contending, I think that's a good area to go. And in the quarterback position, I think Russell Wilson fits this, actually. I think Russell's actually a fun kind of redraft pick based on his ADP right now, because I think he could have a big year. I know losing Tim Patrick yesterday hurts, but I think he's a perfect kind of one quarterback redraft option, go grab. But in Dynasty, his value cliff is coming. Like Russell's skill set's not like Rodgers. He's not like these guys that maybe can last it a little longer. And for me, he's a guy that you probably should have got rid of last year. But if you haven't yet, I still think he's a kind of the quarterback in Dynasty that you could probably get rid of to go get like a Fields, maybe even a little bit younger if you wanted to. But Fields seems like the target to go grab with Russell and then get something back. Plus, don't just go do it for Fields. But I think that's those are the two guys I was looking at when I was looking at this question.
No, those are good ones. And with Russ, like you said, like he's not really scrambling anymore. He's not running as much as he did before. And that kind of loses a lot of value for me.
Yeah.
So what do you got there, Scott?
You got to turn my mic on. I like both of those. I'm going to piggyback off the offense at least and say for Dynasty, Kirk Cousins is not sexy. I mean, he's never been sexy for anything, right? I did see Denny Carter, though, take him in beginning of the second round or end of the second round of Scott Fish, and that kind of blew my mind this year. That gave me a Kirk Cousins wake-up call. So I think in redraft, he'll be more valuable than he will be in Dynasty. And so in Dynasty, he's on his he's on his second contract, last contract here. Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to get. So it's just he's got little value. So I would see what you can do. Get rid of him probably 2 years ago, but that's somebody who this year in redraft I'll be really kind of later round quarterbacking him. Derek Carr, I think, those are a couple of the people have been kind of bantered about. Trey Lance as well in that little late round window. And then when it comes to running backs, I think of James Conner, right? He's not got long for this world. We keep talking about him. He's in like the Leonard Fournette, like, man, he's not that great, but the opportunity is going to be great. And so this year in redraft, he's got a huge value bump, right? But not so much in Dynasty. People are trying to get out from under him. So if you have him this year and he just starts crushing it in the beginning of Dynasty, hold on. Like right now, he's not as valuable as he can be after a couple good weeks. So remember, people are emotional. They see things. They want things. So wait until he gets 2 touchdowns, get your 33 points, and you'll be like, hey, I'm selling Connor this year. I think you can get something back for him. And Breece Hall, by the way, that's a great person to get back for anybody. I love that call from Kev. He's somebody who I got on Scott Fish as well. And I believe the future is now for some of these running backs.
Scott, let me just real quick, Nate. You brought up the Scott Fish Bowl. This was for Nate and I. This was our first year, so I asked you guys: were there any big surprises in how the drafts went down this year? Like for like quarterbacks flew off. I was surprised. Like in the first round, I think there were only 2 non-quarterbacks taken in the draft I was a part of, and I think maybe only 3 non-quarterbacks in the whole second round. Were you any surprises for you guys in the Scott Fish Bowl draft this year? And how did you like your teams?
Well, I drafted live, so it was a little bit of a different experience because people were drinking and people were, like Trey Lance went at the 105 because we were in San Francisco. So that's definitely like, that's going to happen. It was a lot of fun. I think for us, quarterbacks flew off the board. I like my team. For the first time ever, I have Tom Brady on a fantasy team. So I drafted him in the second round. And I've never had Brady before ever in fantasy. All his years, I've never gotten him. So watch this year, he's going to suck. But, when you're looking at like the team overall, it was a lot of fun. I think the nice thing about Scott Fish Bowl, I think, is that you can build a team in so many different ways. And I think that's the fun part of it. The scoring is so different. But no, I mean, the live drafts were fun because, the drinks are flowing and people are just drafting like, San Francisco, like Elijah Mitchell went really early, Kittle went early because we're out here in California. So you're looking at all that.
That's fun. That's really fun.
Also nice for the live portion that you're not. I think my draft took 9 days or something like that, 10 days. So it's nice to also reminisce on the old days when you actually finished up in one day.
I'll tell you what I loved is that they did it local, and we didn't get everybody together here in the Silver Spring division in Maryland. We're kind of around. But there was enough of us who are still around that we're going to go out and hang out and do things this year and grab beers. And Joe Bond, who's in there, Denny Carter is in there. And so we're going to do things at each other's house and have events. And so I love that. Scott Fish had kind of been talking about that for a while. So, Scott Fish, you're awesome. And Ryan, too. You guys are crushing it. One thing that was interesting is the kicker situation. So we were going along. We were going along 9th round. Speaking of the devil, Denny Carter picked a kicker in the 9th round. He did not have a second running back. He picked a running back, and then he had a kicker. I'm not trying to be critical of my love. He's one of my friends, but that kind of shit was crazy because another kicker didn't go off the board until round 21. So you're like 10 rounds too soon, like 150 picks too soon on that. So that kind of just, I don't know if he's doing a bit or he wanted to be on that tracker and put his name up on the Josh ADHD so if someone could look and go, Kevin Tompkins finally drafted a running back in round 29, whatever it is. But that kind of just was funny because, I didn't even get a kicker. You know what I mean? Like, Fuck kickers.
Well,
Sorry.
and everyone is kind of doing the same thing. They're going to wait on kicker or not draft one. That's kind of with me. Like I just waited till the very end because I knew everyone else was going to do the same thing. But that's kind of bold. Maybe some other people will take a kicker early then. But okay, with Scott Fishbowl, man, like I had Mahomes at 105. I don't know what happened in my league, but they ignored him for 4 picks. And I was like, is this a trick? I thought it was a trick. I didn't think it was real. And then Justin Jefferson was still there in round 2. So I'm like, you know what? Like everyone else is taking 2 quarterbacks to start. Like, let's go with Justin Jefferson. So it's everyone. I like to see how people build their teams. I think the hero ball approach was very popular. The anchor running back and then a bunch of receivers. But I don't know. Everyone has their style they like. Speaking of running backs, who is your guys' favorite discounted handcuff? Because we all know the premium handcuffs. We know about Tony Pollard. We know about Alexander Madison. Who are some guys who are really cheap that maybe are on good offenses, but we're not really talking about? And I know a weird one that I have that I don't think he's good at all. I don't think he's talented. He's a former Washington. He was a Redskin at the time, but Samaje Perine. I mean, Samaje Perine is the backup to a prolific offense. He's not good. He's not talented, but we know Joe Mixon gets banged up, and Samaje Perine costs absolutely nothing. So in your really deep, dynasty best ball leagues that I'm in or best ball leagues, he costs nothing. So who are some that you guys have though?
You're muted.
Yeah, I know. I'm feeling old. It's funny that you say Perine because I picked Chris Evans from the Bengals because I don't think Perine's any good. So I think Chris Evans can come in there. And I think, when you look at this, like handcuffs and backup stuff, I will say this, especially in redrafts, I go after pass catching backs in the back end of drafts, and I will get like 5 in a row. I will just tag those guys, Darrell Williams, Chris Evans, those type of guys. Darrell's another one for me. I'm huge on Darrell, but he's shooting up draft boards. So like, it's one of those things where like, I'll take him, but I like taking him in the 14th or 15th round. Now he's in like the 10th and 11th. And now I'm like, damn it, there goes my value. But Chris Evans is still free. Like he's going to be free. And he's a guy that I think is interesting, can get that shot. I don't trust Zach Taylor as much because I think he struggles identifying talent. I mean, I think that he doesn't understand how to put his pieces there, but I will say Evans could be that guy that kind of vaults in front of Perine, and then you have him as that pass catching guy, 9 to 10 points, flex option type of guy.
No, I like that with the pass catching guys. It's always a question of like, can they take on a bigger workload and still retain that passing volume? Like we here in Washington, we see JD McKissick, and no matter what, like he's never going to get a workhorse like volume, even if Gibson goes down or Robinson went down. So, but there's other guys. You're right. Like they already have that pass catching role, and they could possibly get more. So I'm totally with
2 years ago when healthy, JD McKissick had 80 receptions.
Yeah, so, he's got that high floor.
And James Cook is another pass catcher. I got to get the Bulldogs in where I get my opportunities, but James Cook I think is in for big years too. Scott, handcuff for you.
There's 2 I'm looking at, and they're wildly different backs. But in Philadelphia, Kenny Gainwell, I just don't understand. ESPN, he's 214. Like, what are you guys what are you doing? I don't understand. You got rid of Jordan Howard. You're going to run the football. They're going to pass the football on 3rd down to him. That's who they're going to throw the football to. It doesn't make sense. So that just is like a no-brainer to me. I got Kenny Gainwell everywhere. And then Gus Edwards, too. This is like, I don't understand this either. I love J.K. Dobbins, by the way, but he's not going to get a 70% like a backfield share. He doesn't really, catch that many. I just don't get this, where you forget about one. I have a theory called wide receiver 2 theory. Cooper Kupp fit that last year. Robert Woods is being drafted above him. There's some tremendous opportunity underneath of these people, right? And then it explodes. Same thing with like running back 2 theory. Like, how are you going to let Gus Edwards be 35 picks later or 30 picks later after J.K. Dobbins? It just does not, and that's RBs, not even just picks. That's RB picks later. It doesn't make sense. So both those guys, Gus Edwards, not the PPR machine necessarily that Kenny Gainwell will be, but just the touchdown equity. You saw like Ingram was like valuable, and Deonta Foreman last year. Like, who are these people? What's going on? Ingram the year before, but Foreman last year. It's like, that's crazy.
You don't have to tell us. This is a pro Kenny Gainwell podcast, even though it's a Washington podcast. I mean, It's that simple. It's a backup running back and a good offense that is going to run the ball a lot. He already has the pass catching role. And then Miles Sanders gets hurt all the time. He's on the last year of his contract. I mean, the list goes on and on for why you could like Kenny Gainwell. Now, there's a great chance like he gets they have a new running back in Philly next year, a completely new one. But still, like for this year, yeah, I love him. Okay, let's I'm going to skip the tight end question because nobody cares. We're going to go
real quick before you do that. I'm curious, Kevin, just as an NFC East guy, where do you have Hurts? First of all, do you believe in Hurts just as a quarterback? And second, where do you have him kind of ranked among the 4 starters in the division?
Ooh, yeah. So are we talking fantasy or are we talking real life?
We could do both for just a second.
Okay. I mean, fantasy, I think he's a QB1. Like he's going to have the rushing floor and he'll be fine there. I think real life, looking at that division and where they're at, I think he's QB2 in that division. I think it's Dak and him. And then I think I don't like Wentz. I've never liked Wentz. I think he struggles accuracy. I think his best days are behind him. Daniel Jones is just not very good. Tyrod Taylor is going to take that spot. But when you're looking at from this perspective of the division, I think Hurts is at QB2, but I think he severely caps their ceiling because I think that he needs to improve from accuracy perspective, but that stuff doesn't just get improved. Like he hasn't improved since Oklahoma. Like I've watched him since Oklahoma. He just hasn't improved, but that RPO system with A.J. Brown is really going to help. So I highlighted A.J. Brown for a piece on Football Guys this summer and going back until A.J. Brown's college days. And that was the system that they did at Ole Miss for him. And now they've kind of implemented that into that Eagles offense now. And the Eagles tried to do that last year, but they didn't have a very good line. And they didn't have a guy like A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's going to make Hurts look a lot better. And I think that we're going to see a better Hurts because of the talent around him now, because Devonta wasn't that guy. Rieger, we know, is not that guy. A.J. Brown is that guy. So we're going to see improvements from him. Now, as a Cowboy fan, I hope they give him a contract extension because I don't think that he'll ever be that guy that's going to lead that team past anybody in that division. But they've done a great job of drafting. They have a very good team. They kicked ass this year on the offseason. I got to give them credit as much as I hate the Eagles. But overall, I think, he's a QB1 for fantasy, QB2 in the division, but that doesn't mean anything because that division, the quarterbacks of that division aren't very good.
I'm really conflicted there, right? Because I feel like Hurts' weakness is throwing to the intermediate part of the field. And I feel like the strength of both of those receivers, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, is that intermediate part of the field. They're both route winners and they're both they win after the catch. So I don't know how that's going to go. I'm sure A.J. Brown will help. But we're going to transition here to rookie or the vet. And basically, I'm going to give you a rookie or a veteran in their ADP and underdog right now. And I want you to choose between them and, give us your case real quickly. So we'll start here with Scott. Scott, we have Breece Hall at 40 and then Cam Akers at 42. So they're going back to back, basically. Who would you prefer there?
I'm going to go Breece. And I tweeted out, if you're going to be, heavy Cam Akers truther this year, you're going to lose some money. So I just tweeted it out today. It just happened to come on. I wasn't trying to do that for the show, but nice setup. I stand behind my thoughts because I think that though I love Cam Akers, he's not going to dominate the backfield as much as I think that Breece Hall is, and he doesn't have the same skill set. Breece Hall, profiles on player profiler as Jonathan Taylor Thomas himself, right? So it's what you want to see if you're doing that build. So I'm going to go out on Akers, and I'm not into that. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if you check out The Athletic, they were talking about it being a split backfield. They sound like a lot of people are like Akers could be the next Gurley. Well, if you listen to a lot of what they're saying, it sounds like Henderson and Akers are both going to get their shot. So I think it's really up in the air. And at the end of the day, McVay's offenses don't really pass a lot to running backs. It's just not something they do. You can go back all the way back to before Gurley, and they just never have done that.
The most they've had is 101 targets to Gurley in 2018. That's the most overall. Right. Gurley, but overall, when they were giving Gurley 90 targets or 80 targets, that's the most they've done. The last couple years have been 61, 76. That's not an offense where they're going to be throwing the ball. The Jets are going to do that. They're going to throw 150 times their running backs this year. So that's my thought.
No, I'm totally with you. All right, Kevin, I got one for you real quick. Let's do Drake London at pick 75 or Chris Godwin at pick 62. I know you're a dynasty guy, so I have a feeling you're going to go with Drake, but let's see.
I'll take Godwin. I'm all for Godwin here because I think he's going to come back. And when you looked at him last year, just based on his target share, I mean, he led the team in target share when him and Mike Evans are out there, and he's gonna be that guy. Even if let's say he comes back week 3, week 4, you're fine in fantasy. If you take a shot on Godwin, you stash him, you go after one of these late round guys. London is okay, but like Scott was talking about earlier, and you were talking about, the quarterback play is concerning. I mean, I like Mariota and I like Ritter, I always have. But how much do we trust those guys in that offense, which struggles without a rushing attack? I mean, if they got Patterson, Algier, those guys, that is not very good weapons from the running back position and the outside. I mean, London's going to have to create separation. He's going to have to do those things. And you see these camp highlights of him creating separation against the Falcons defense. There's a reason why the Falcons have sucked the last 3 or 4 years, is because of their defense. So if he's creating separation against the defense, the Atlanta Falcons defense, like, yeah, that's great. But let's hold our, just wait for him to be the rookie of the year. Like, let's take that back. Godwin has shown that he can do it. And in redraft, I'm all for it. Like, I'll take Godwin, stash him. He could be the wide receiver 1 on a Tampa Bay team that we've seen Brady do this in. And he's been consistent enough to go. So I know I'm a dynasty guy, but I'll take Godwin all day just based on talent.
No, I'm totally with you there. I'm going to throw it over to Doug for this one. I don't want to leave you out, Doug. And we've already touched on this guy, but so we got Chris Olave going at pick 91, or MVS also going at about pick 91 right now. MVS is getting a lot of steam. I don't understand it personally. Like, you were playing with the best quarterback you could play with, and you still weren't crushing it. So I don't know what changing offenses is really going to do, but Chris Olave or MVS, who do you got?
I'd go Olave here just because I know Michael Thomas is around the building, but we have no idea where his health is at. And so I'm trying to figure out, who else are they throwing the ball to, right? So, there should be a lot of work involved there for Olave. So I think that would be my pick there. And I think it's a pretty easy one.
My dynasty teams are hoping that dark horse Adam Troutman gets a few receptions there, because I have him on a bench of a bunch of my really deep teams. But God, who knows? Who knows with that one? But I'm totally with you there. Scott, looks like we had another guest back there. The kiddos. We've all been there.
Yeah. There's ice cream in the back that she does not know about. So when I see somebody cross behind, I'm thinking, are you stealing ice cream? You foraging, knowing I cannot get back there
without giving you one, without offering one to you?
No, she needed to get a flashlight so she could open up the vent and go down into it and start cleaning stuff out, because she found her Polly Pocket girl dropped down there. Then she discovered more was down below. So our kitchen tongs are now down in our vents. So, it's just.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. My family, we are still missing a Polly Pocket from Hawaii when we went there last year. It is missing in action. We looked all day. It was a whole dilemma, but we never found it.
Is it still talked about? Is it still in the lexicon?
No, a day later she's forgotten about it, but it's still a big deal if you bring it up. That's how kids are.
Well, my daughter, she took her Polly Pocket, some of her figures, to camp. I said, "Don't do it. You're going to lose every one of those things that you're taking right now to camp. I guarantee it." 2 days later, she's like, "I lost all of my Polly Pockets at camp." I was like, "I know." I said, "Okay." So then I thought, "Okay, be a good dad." I've been buying her secretly. I've been buying her Polly Pockets when I see them at stores, stashing them. And so today we had chores. I have the show. I said, "Listen, you clean your room. I got a brand new Polly Pocket for you. Ready to go right here." She was ready to go. So, I'm trying to motivate her. It's okay. She lost something. Who cares? Like, end of the world. Not like we can replace that. I want to make it. When I was
the Polly Pocket in the vent your hiding spot? Did she find your stash of Polly Pockets?
No, it's in the basement, and she found it when I was going to get it for her. She comes in the bathroom. I was like, "Get out of here!" Like, so, I love kids. They're like the truth. You cannot get away from them, right? There's nothing that you can do.
The truth will set you free.
Just maybe go in the bathroom for a little bit and lock the door. It's all we got. So,
okay. So the next one I had, honestly, I did this 2 weeks ago, so maybe the ADP has changed. I'm not even going to give you one because it was going to be Treylon Burks against Robert Woods. But at this point, like, any receiver going in the range of where Treylon Burks was going 2 weeks ago, which was like pick 96, it's going to be Treylon Burks. So I'm not going to waste time with that one. I'm going to move on to the next one. I had Rachaad White at pick 119 versus Ronald Jones at pick 122. these are two handcuffs that some will consider premium. So which one do you like there?
I like Rachaad White, and for the reason why you talked about earlier, is there a running back late round that could get that heavy volume if the running back in front of him got hurt? Yeah, Rachaad White's that guy. I mean, I know Ronald. I'm a closet Ronald guy. Like I like Rojo, but I'm not gonna bet my team on him this year. I think Rachaad is one of those guys who's gonna get pass catching work. I think Fournette, if he got injured, Rachaad could step right in like he did last year at Arizona State, and he could carry the full workload because he's got the body to do it. And I think he could fit in there. And there's really no one there. I mean, Keyshawn Vaughn, those guys, like Rachaad can be that dude that comes in there and is that guy. So I'm going to go with Rachaad because he's also a better pass catcher. Rojo's not really a great pass catcher. So if you can get that late and get a guy that maybe could be a low end running back 2 or middle running back 2, if Fournette got hurt, I'll take that upside.
What do you got, Scott?
I'm co-signing that right off the top because here's why. On the surface, you might go, dude, I mean, Ronald Jones, it's the Chiefs, goal line back opportunity, whatever. That's fine. Okay, maybe. You know how many targets last year that the Tampa Bay Bucks were giving out? 141. Right? Yeah. That is a shit ton. And I can guarantee you Leonard Fournette is not going to get 84 of them this year. But Leonard Fournette gets like 59, 61, something like that. And
59.
So, 59. Because I think that Rachaad White can get 69. He can get you the 70 targets maybe, it's a big jump, right? From nothing to 70. But in the offense, there's 140 of them, right? So, I mean, who else is going to get him? Le'Veon Bell?
Who?
I'm not going to. Right?
We mentioned the Chiefs. You know who had a ton of targets last year that probably no one really realizes was someone you guys talked about was Darrell Williams. I think he was top 12 in the league in targets, receptions, yards. But Ronald Jones, like let's be real, Ronald Jones isn't getting those. Okay. The only reason I'm talking about Ronald Jones is honestly like there was one fantasy analyst that like if he says something or he predicts something, I'm going to pay attention to. I don't care. Like there's one person that like he's the top of my list, and it's Sean Siegel from RotoViz. And Sean Siegel basically said like someone from the Chiefs backfield is going to break out this year. It's going to happen. And he's always been a truther for Ronald Jones. So I'm like, okay, if Sean's into it, maybe I'll take one here or there. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have a ceiling without being able to, catch any balls. So I'm totally with you guys there. But okay. We got 2 more to get to real quickly. Let's do this one for Scott. Isaiah Spiller at 127 or Alexander Madison at 125?
I mean, as we live and speak, all 3 of the Vikings running backs went out of practice, last practice, right? Hands, feet, toes. It's like, So I'm just going to say, though, Isaiah Spiller, I think, has an opportunity in one of the most dynamic offenses in the NFL to be a complement to Austin Eckler. They've been looking for one for a while. They're trying to find one. So I think if you're looking for upside, you're going to get that in Isaiah Spiller compared to Madison, who, if there's an injury, then yeah, you can get an upside. But he's a handcuff that's just like a forever handcuff. You know what I mean? Like you go to Paris and it's just like, we've been to Paris every year. Like, that's what we do. They're like, Madison's still there. Yeah. So I just can't get on board the train. Watch him this year be the RB3 in the NFL, whatever. But
yeah, and this is totally like you guys have both mentioned this in Dynasty. I know we've been talking about redraft. If you have one of these stud running backs, because you both mentioned it, if you have like a Dalvin Cook and you're not contending, which great, you've identified your team isn't good, you shouldn't have that player on your team anymore. By the end of this year, you have to trade them. Like, don't wait until it's too late. That would be my advice. James Conner, Dalvin Cook, if you're on a bad team, like get rid of those players. But the last guy I had on the list was Jalen Tolbert. So we're not even going to talk about him because we talked about him so much. So it looks like Kevin has something to say about Dynasty, I feel like. So what do you got, Kevin?
Well, I don't want to be that guy. I was just to your point about like trading these guys, like just because you don't think you're contending, don't just sell them for like assets. Go get dudes that will score points this year, like Brees or Javonte. If the manager's like, oh, Melvin Gordon's there, like there are guys out there that you can turn these top-notch assets, even in the 23 class. Like I know the 23 class is good. I do, Debbie. I know that it's good, but there's going to be misses. So one way that you'll hurt yourself even more, because I don't know about you guys, I like to win money. I don't like to keep just saying, oh, here's my $40. I'm going to rebuild for 20 till 2032. Like, go take your assets that are top level assets and go get at least, I always try to get at least a piece and a pick, but also like a tier break. So if I'm going to go get a like Dalvin Cook, I'm going to go just to my second tier and I'm going to target one of those second tiers that I have in my rankings. I'm going to get that guy. And if I can't get that guy, then I'll wait, because at some point injuries and things are going to happen to where you can go get that guy. But I see it too much with new dynasty people out there. If you've never done it before, they try to sell it to picks, and picks aren't going to help you rebuild. And you can still rebuild through youth, especially at the running back position, and still compete. Like, that's what you should be looking for. Sorry,
no, yeah, it's picks with a plan. You have to have a plan in place, right? Like, if like perfect case scenario, I want to contend every single year while constantly like reloading with youth. That's the ultimate goal for me. Like, I want to be good every year, be in the playoffs, but still churn my roster with young players that can help me win now. But I'll turn it over to Doug unless you got anything else, guys.
I have one last thing I'd like to finish with. We ask this question often, and I think it's a good one, and that's why I'll ask you, gentlemen. Last year, the Bengals was the offense that kind of came out of nowhere. I'm curious which team you guys think will be that team this year that is so explosive and we didn't necessarily see it coming.
Besides the Commanders.
Obviously.
Let me think. Scott, do you have one off the top of your head?
I mean, maybe not like explosive, but I can see the Lions taking a big step forward.
I like that roster.
The weapons they have, and maybe Hawk is healthy this year, and Swift stays healthy, and Williams comes in. I mean, they have a nice spirit about them. So they've just sucked for so long as a franchise, and you don't expect much. It's Jared Goff, but I think they could be a little bit more sneaky with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got some of the pieces, Penei Sewell on that side, so they've got kind of what you need to kind of put some points out there, I think. And not that they're undervalued. I think Swift is appropriately valued in that end of the first round. But I just think overall as a team, I think they're going to be a little more surprising. Jared Goff is not the best, but I think he has the system now a year in. I think he'll be effective.
I like that one. I'm gonna go off the board. Like Carolina. I think if Mayfield can come in and be just average with DJ Moore, if CMC comes back and he's healthy, like you're looking at an offense, if that offensive line can get together, maybe we're talking about them being in, different. I mean, they're vault. CMC and Moore could be those guys in fantasy that we're talking about as being top end guys, and now they can help you win leagues. That offense can vault themselves up a little bit.
Gentlemen, you got so much great content, and I don't want to be here messing it up. So, Scott, let's start with you. Tell the folks at home where they find you, what you got coming up next.
Thank you, sir. Well, I appreciate it, Doug. This has been great. I love coming on the show. Last year, you invited me on, second time on. And Kev, it's been awesome. Love to get to chop it up with you. Everything you say, I'm listening to. I'm like, taking notes and shit. So I'm excited. Just to be able to, hang out here. So you can find me, Nibble W Numbers, on Twitter and then online as well. We do primarily DFS over at nibblewnumbers.com. I have Bo McBrayer writing with me. We're co-partners over there, and he's crushing it. And so we do that every year. We do the DraftKings, which is full PPR. You got to go full PPR, right? The FanDuel, okay, whatever, it's fine. But I like to send it and get the full points. And I play full PPR leagues only. So that's where you can find me. And then I write for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I just dropped a rookie wide receivers article, so check that out. And anything else? I've got a podcast, also the Fantasy Millionaires, which we did our first redraft top 12 episode on Monday. We're going to go through the whole 16 rounds, 15 rounds or so, whatever it is, get you ready for your draft. So check that out. And next week, we've got Denny Carter coming on with Bo McBrayer for a little chalk block fusion. We had Matt Harmon on last week. So all that great stuff is out there. And those people are way better than me. So if you listen to me, I appreciate you. But if you listen to them, you're going to really actually learn something.
And Kevin, let's wrap it up with you.
Yeah, you can find me at DeBoers_22 on Twitter. And, a lot of my work is the Devy Royale. We have a big Patreon there. We have over 300 pages of a manifesto that goes into college football teams, rankings. I just finished a big board. So I ranked 160 Devy and Dynasty players together to help you with trade values for Devy, which is something that can be very hard. Like, where do you value Bryce Young compared to, Russell Wilson? So I did that for our Patreon members. It's $3 a month. If you value it, you could look at that. And you can find all my written work at Football Guys. I have a piece coming out pretty much once a week. But during the season, I'm going to be doing a big board idea. So top 36 college football players for the 23 class, you should be keeping an eye on so that you could rank your dynasty picks with those players. So, you know, if you trade for or trading away, who you're trading away from. Because I think that's something in the space that I think is missing. So I'm looking forward to that.
Every week, we hope to get a little smarter here on the program. I think we did that today. Fellas, appreciate you so much for giving us a little bit of your time today.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And Nate, I'll see you next week.
Thank you.